After having talked for hours and hours, what would I like you to remember? What would I like you to take away from this? I would like for you to go through this class, and when it's over, turn it off and say, yes, I will do it.
Hello everyone, it's Louis P here. Today what we're going to be talking about is the Diane von Furstenberg Teachers Fashion Brand Masterclass. Now, it's actually insanely good, and remember guys, I have a link in the description which will get you the masterclass for $90, so I got you back there. So today what we're going to be discussing is an overview of the actual class itself. We're going to take you right into the actual masterclass, what it looks like while you're actually doing it. We're going to obviously talk about the value that it brings, and also I'm going to try and give you a bit more value guys. It isn't just a branding masterclass. Me personally, in my professional life, I'm actually a branding and marketing person. That's literally my job. But if I can just add that tiny, that 0.5% more, every little bit adds up. So moving on, let's talk about the class itself. There are 17 video lessons. There's a class workbook, which is associated to each one of those lessons. Very, very powerful. She even gives you tasks for every single lesson. So for example, once you complete one, she will say, okay, this is your task, and then express it to the community. Tell us what you think. So it's quite cool there. There's obviously office hours as well. You can actually upload videos of yourself chatting, getting exposure to Diane herself and saying, okay, well, this is what I've done. What do you think of this? This is my question. Really, really cool. And obviously masterclass students have given it a 5 out of 5 by far, which is great. And then we'll also go into the lesson plan as well. We'll learn, obviously, if you're on the go, you can watch it from your iPhone. Really, really cool. And obviously it's 100% guaranteed. You can view it on any browser and it's on demand wherever you go, which I've already alluded to. If you know me, you know that my versus videos are my most popular videos. They're also the ones that I put the most effort into. So I'm definitely going to do a Marc Jacobs versus Diane masterclass for sure. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification when that is released. And obviously give me your feedback on this video as you go. So let's jump straight into it. The masterclass begins with an introduction of who Diane actually is as a person, as where she's come from, and also what inspired her. So before I actually get into the deepness of this, I need to make it very clear that if you're actually going to do this masterclass, I highly recommend you actually start with 13, 14, and 15 first. You really get an overview of the journey that she's gone on. That's just a little tip, guys. Before you do this masterclass, make sure, if you do it, 13, 14, and 15 first, and then go back to 1. Very, very important that you do that, because the introduction to me wasn't enough. You really appreciate her genius for the remainders. That's just a small tip, guys, if you end up taking this class. Now, let's move into it. The introduction obviously talks about who she is and how she's related to all this entire fashion empire. One of the heads of the fashion associations over there as well. Obviously, she has an amazing brand, and there's a class workbook, but on top of that, there are 2,332 comments in this video. So you have other fashion designers that are in here taking this class. Hyper competitive environment. I've never seen a masterclass with this type of exposure before. And the big thing is, as you can see with the introductions, there are 2,332 comments, but they haven't all completed it yet, because if you go to the last one, there's only 19 comments. So you still have time to catch up and really finish this class. And people are doing it correctly as well. They're taking the workbook and they're doing it each one by one. One class, they're taking it, they're probably giving it a few days, and then they're doing it again. They're taking it slow. They're really getting value from it. And you can see it just by the fact that there's only 19 comments in the last video. Okay, so introduction, you have an overview of who she is, and it's great. Really cool. It's needed. It's quick. Discovering the industry. I really like this because it talks to you about the industry. How does it work? Be specific with your dream, your visual eye, getting work experience. If you're up and coming, this is the type of information you need to know. How to actually get experience and where to work to begin your career. Now, this actually applies to every profession on the planet. This is how you have to do it. You have to find what's unique about yourself. And then obviously you need to have a goal. So you have to have the goal, you have to have a visual eye, aka you have to have talent, and then you're putting in the work by work experience, internships, etc., etc., etc. And then developing your product. Now, if you're a fashion designer, let's be real, guys, your product needs to apply to a certain market. Now, this is me adding a tiny bit of value to this class, but it's true. If you are going to build something and you want it to be an actual business, because that's what this is at the end of the day, your market, your product needs to apply to a certain demographic, a certain type of person, a certain type of woman, a type of body structure. And she talks about body structure is really interesting in this. Developing your product. What's inspiring your product? What are the mood boards? Mood boards are really interesting, and I'm actually going to implement them in my real world office. I'm in marketing, as I've already alluded to, but I've never even considered putting mood boards in, because as a marketing person, I'm all about brands and I'm all about creating a certain culture in my team. So So mood board, very interesting. I'm actually going to apply that to my world. Colors, prints. Now, if you are in branding, you know that every company has a color palette. They have branding guidelines, and she really discusses that very deep level, which is great. Definitely talks about what colors work and how you were inspired by other artists. And I call them artists because that's what they deserve to be called, these fashion designers, in my opinion, because artist is basically the highest form of integrity, in my opinion, when you're designing something. The next part is, having your product stand for something. What does it actually mean to building? Why are you doing this? And then obviously understanding yourself as the customer. So as the consumer, for that matter, because a customer implies that they're already buying from you. As I was talking about earlier, it's having your product. What does it mean? What is different about this product versus everything else? And then understanding yourself as the consumer. So that obviously means if you put yourself in the consumer's shoes, would they actually want this, and do they care about your product? You learn how to position your product. Are you branding yourself within the market? What's really cool, and she was talking about the processes they used back in the day, having fashion shows and all the people that go to these fashion shows, all the buyers, all the magazines, all the news outlets, and how they all feed into one another. So it was really cool to see how that actually works in this space. Really cool. And then the next part is your product and market research. Now, if you're going to build any product ever, the first foundation you need to do is have market research. You need to understand what your market really is. You can't just like your market and be passionate about it. You have to actually know it. And that's one thing that she really instills in you. Yes, you can love fashion all you want. If you don't know the market and you don't know the competitors, like really know them, then you're not really going to succeed. And that's what she includes. She puts so much work into everything she does with respect to any product that she looks at. She's already looking at her competition. She's doing everything at once, and she has an entire team around her that she's built it into this entire empire. So knowing your market, your competitors, and obviously your business plan to execute it. Very important, very, very good lesson 05. Building your brand DNA. And this essentially comes back to developing your product as well. Because the reality is this, guys, your product is your brand. That's just the fact. Then she talks about your DNA. But for me, it's always, a branding guideline. But DNA, really cool way to look at it. Basically building your brand portfolio, naming your brand, how do you name it? And there's a lot more you can talk about in this. I can go through it. I'll probably make another dedicated video just for this. And this is inspiring a lot more other videos down the line in order to help you guys. Naming your brand, or how to design your logos to fit your existing market, and how to differentiate your logos from everything. So very important. She gives you a brief, but I wish she gave you a bit more detail on how to actually brand. She talks about it. It's cool. It's like an old wise grandmother or your mother talking to you about building brand DNA. Really cool. She talks about how she crafted hers. In today's day and age, this is a bit outdated. The core root of what she's saying is correct, but there's a lot more now that you can get into with respect to search engine optimization, how to properly build your logo with the Adobe palettes. And there's a lot more that goes into that. 07, taking your brand to the world. Now, how do you actually get it out there? And by getting it out there in today's age, she talks about the internet world, which is really cool to see this lady, an old-fashioned marketer, talking about the internet and how to use it properly. And she even talks about it there, using social media. It means something very important. How she built loyalty with her customers, how she communicated her brand to her consumers, and then ultimately turning them into customers, which was really cool. Told brand story, she built brand loyalty, and how to use models. Now, that was interesting for me because I never knew there was like this, how deep this actually was. I thought you just get the prettiest girl ever, but then when you look at companies like Victoria's Secret, Diane's label, they use models in very particular ways. And I just thought, oh, these girls are just like the most attractive girls that you can get. No, there's a lot more to it. Unfortunately, that industry has that stigma, which it really shouldn't, because after you learn from a great like this, you know that there's a lot more to it, which is cool. Either way, very cool lesson 07. The next one is connecting with your consumer. That's cool. She goes to trade shows, very simple stuff like that, but there's now more to that than meets the eye. I think you need to really look in a 6-minute video, this one, so not too long, but she talks about how to identify your consumers by building your brand loyalty and how to deeply understand the consumer and how to make them value your brand. So discovering your research, it also ties back into customer and market research. Social media. And now this is really cool because, on social, it's a 24/7, tell your story whenever you want, however you want, and it's always authentic to your brand. And that's what social media is. Very interesting lesson. This one goes for 8 minutes and 22 seconds. She doesn't BS. She's like, this is what you need to do, X, Y, Z, and that's how you build your brand on social media. You can probably learn a bit more from other people though. In this case, a lot more techniques, executional, but she has an overarching opinion on that, which is really good. Brand extensions. Basically, a brand extension is how do you partner? How do you basically license out your good, or do you want to collab with other artists? Name ownership, relaunching your brand. She talks about that. She's built multiple brands and sold them, then built them and sold again for a lot of money. She even says a lot of money, which is cool. Very interesting. You need to know this and how brand extensions work. The next part I want to talk about is Catherine. Oh my God, Catherine. Now, if you know anything about Diane, she's very strict and she doesn't F around. When she's taking this student through how to inspire them and how to influence and how to build their career, she's very much to the point. In this case, poor little Catherine, she gets it pretty hard in terms of the way she was spoken to by Diane. She's like, okay, Diane's like literally to this 31-year-old lady who is just getting into the industry, which is cool. You know, all respect to Catherine. She's just getting into the field, and Diane's like, okay, what do you want to do? What are your goals? And what exactly do you want to be building? And what is your dream? How do they all tie in together? And this poor Catherine is like, she's a bit stumped for words. She's never been put on the spot to the point like this. If you're going to do a student session like this, please prepare yourself, get your stuff in order. Otherwise, that was very interesting because this represents what a lot of people are in the industry. And I think that's why they showed this one. They're not 100% sure what they want to do, and they're still on the edge. They're still on the fence. They're not 100% dedicated and loyal. This lady, 31 years old. Then you compare them with Danny. Really awesome guy. Love Danny to bits. Point with Danny now is very much a contrast to that. Danny's 21 years old, 22 years old. So he's 10 years younger than Catherine, but he had a vision in mind. He gets what he wants to do. He wants to build this brand and how he wants to build it. He has a vision. In this masterclass, they're comparing two different types of people. A young, fresh entrepreneur type wants to get work experience, has an idea for his brand. On the other hand, you have Catherine, who is 31 years old, probably been in the industry for a few years and still not 100% sure on what she wants to do in it. So very important to have those two perspectives. This goes into what I was going to talk about at the start. 13, 14, and 15 first. Make sure you're taking them first because it gives you a real overview on who she is. She came to America in the 70s, baby in her tummy, zero prospects. She had one suitcase with some brands that she wanted to show, and then she shows that lady, and then that lady just amplified her in the industry and how she built different people up. She's, had so many mentors, and I wouldn't even be surprised that Marc Jacobs was a mentee to this lady. Diana's journey too just talks about her niche, how she makes her dresses, and her mistakes. Very important to talk about this lady's mistakes. Really cool. Mental toughness. And this is also one of the first videos I want you to see because you then have a bit more context on what is this lady actually saying. And she's so mentally tough. It's called EQ. You can Google that, and it's basically emotional intelligence. And this is enforced in every single masterclass. Trusting your instincts. Be yourself. Don't care what other people think too much. Just do what you want to do within reason, right? That's really, really powerful. One of the last acts is her third act. And this talks about her final message, what she wants to give to you and what she ultimately wants you to receive. As Masterclass has your back when it comes to adding a tiny bit more value, philanthropy and giving back. Now, she talks about giving back. As you get older, you start valuing different things. It's not just about having the biggest brand anymore. It's about giving back once you have that. It's about giving people a voice. It's really, really cool to see how humble she is at the same time. Taking care of your family, taking care of your industry, having them as a massive family, even if they are competitors. You take care of everyone in your space. And that has made this lady so successful. That is pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little overview video, that review video. I really like the masterclass. I highly recommend it if you're getting into the fashion industry. If you click that link in the description, which will get you the masterclass for $90, so I got you back there. So otherwise, guys, I'll have the Marc Jacobs versus Diane von Furstenberg class very soon. I want to get that Marc Jacobs review video out first, and then I'll do the comparison video once I really get my head around Marc Jacobs. Guys, if you like the content, give it a like. If you subscribe, it shows that you really liked it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope everyone has an amazing day, night, wherever you are in the world. Louis P. out.